What's going on, guys? Balkan Architect here, and this will be the course that's going to be covering everything you need to know about curtain walls in Revit. We're going to be playing around with placing curtain walls in regular walls. We're also going to be just creating curtain walls, modifying everything that can be modified, and then we're going to be going inside of the system family, changing the panels as we did here to bring in a door, but also we're going to be creating a custom curtain panel that you can see over here. Maybe if I bring this to realistic, there we go. And here, if we maybe go to floor plan, you're going to notice everything that we did over here. So this is actually a two-panel glass panel, or two glass panel with some air in between. And also here we have this detailed mullion. Maybe if I switch this to hidden line, you can see, and if I change here the this to maybe coarse or medium, it's not going to show the detailing of the mullion, but if we change it to fine, it is going to show it. So this is the custom mullion that we're going to be creating within this course. Also, we're going to, here's that mullion. Also, we're going to be creating a fun spider curtain panel wall or curtain facade, and here this is that spider fitting that we're going to be using for this. And we're going to be creating some construction elements, locking everything in place, and this is what we'll have in the end. So without further ado, let's get into the course. So let's start off from a blank project. Before we get into the topic of curtain walls, first let's cover what is a curtain wall. So a curtain wall is, of course, as any other building element within Revit, it is a family. So if we go here to the wall tool, if we open up the drop menu, or just go over here and select wall, or you can go to the drop menu and go wall architectural, and then here in the properties panel, if we just scroll down among all of the walls, we have basic walls, and then we have curtain walls, and then some stacked walls. So curtain wall is just a type of a wall family. Now, wall families aren't regular families. Wall families are one of those system families. So what is a system family? Well, a system family is a family that's basically made out of multiple elements. Now, this isn't a family that you can just load in, just like any element in Revit. So if I go here to component, here we have this desk was loaded in, and I can just place it. Now, we cannot really load in any walls. If I go here to the insert tab, go into load family, and if I search for walls, you're going to notice that I don't really have any walls. I don't have option of loading in walls. So basically, walls are system families, and they're families that are built within each project. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can only be used within that project in which they're built. You can share these system families, just not as simply as sharing regular families. So maybe if I was using this here desk, if I go and select this desk, I can go into edit family, and here we have that desk family, and I can just go ahead over here and save as, and I can save it as a family somewhere on my computer, maybe on desktop, and then I can share that file with somebody else. Now, system families work in a different way. I'm just going to cancel out of all of this. I don't want to save any changes to the desk. Let's go back over here, cancel out of this. So basically, I cannot save my wall as a separate family file. Walls are not family files, they're project files. They're contained only within project files. So the only way for them to be shared is if I were to maybe go into this project. This is a separate project that I did for one of my tutorials. It's just a simple louver family, and it is modeled as a curtain wall. So if I select it, you're going to notice that it appears as one of the curtain walls. So here we have that louver curtain wall. And if we go here into this project, if I go to architecture and to walls, you're going to notice that we don't have that louver curtain wall. So the only way to share that wall, that system family, or that curtain wall system family, is just to go to a separate project, open up both of these projects, select this wall, go Control C, and then go into new project, Control V, and just place it over here, and then we can immediately just delete it and go here to architecture, wall, properties, scroll down, and there we go. Now we have that louver curtain wall system family loaded in. So that's basically the only way you can share these families between files, or alternatively you can maybe create a template that holds all of these files, or sometimes I've seen people basically stack up more of these walls, so they create some system families like walls or stairs or railings. So basically here we have walls that are system families, we have roofs, we also have floors, we have curtain systems, also railings, stairs. So all of these are system families, and you can maybe take one project and just have a bunch of them grouped, and then you can copy that in different projects and then just delete it like I did with this simple louver wall. And that's the way that you can share these system families from one project to another. So just don't expect to be able to save those curtain walls as separate families. So let's now go ahead and explore how can we assemble one of these system families. So first, let's go here to architecture, go to wall, and then let's explore what we have for curtain walls. Now for now I'm going to ignore these louvers, and I'm just going to concentrate on the main three that come with the architectural template. So you get the curtain wall, the exterior glazing, as well as storefront. And if you're not happy with having one of these system families or something like that, you can always remove it. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead here, hit escape, scroll down here, find families, and now if I can find walls, there we go. So we've got curtain walls, and then here we have louvers. So I can just right click and delete this. And now if I just hit escape, go back to walls, open up this drop menu, there we go. We've eliminated that system family from our list. So that's just how can you play around with these system families, and where can you find it in the project and delete it if necessary. So now I'm just going to close this off, go right back ahead, go here to walls, and let's explore these main three. So we got these three, and probably the best way to show what's the difference is to place them all. So let's go with a curtain wall, place one over here. Let's then go with exterior glazing, place here, and then let's go with storefront and place it maybe over here. Okay, there we go. So we've got three of these, and let's go and zoom in to the floor plan. You're going to notice that the first one, the curtain wall, is just one basically plate of glass. Now moving on to this exterior glazing, you're going to notice that it's still just glass, but here we have some separations in the glass. And if we hover over those separations, you're going to notice that we have these kind of division lines that appear. And if I select them, you're going to notice that they're just called grids. Here it says curtain wall grid. So we've got these grids loaded in, and they're basically separating our glass into the separate panels. And here, finally, on our storefront curtain wall, you're going to notice that on all of those divisions we have a mullion, so basically a structural element that is holding that glass in place. Now if you want to make it more detailed, you can always go to fine and always switch here to thin lines. Now you can see it better. Now keep in mind that these mullion elements and glass elements that come straight out of the box with Revit are quite simple, and we're going to be exploring options to make it a bit more interesting. Okay, so with this out of the way, we've explored how it looks in the floor plan. Let's see what that looks like in 3D. So if we go in 3D, there we go. So this is just one plane of glass. Here we have that plane of glass, but we have some separations, and here we have everything. So we've got basically our curtain system that's got the glass, all of the separations, and on those separations we've got these mullions hosted. Now to play around with these curtain walls, if you go to this one, you're going to notice that you don't really have many options because it doesn't really have any grid lines. Now if you select this one, we have a bit more options, so we can always go here and find the vertical grid as well as the horizontal grid, and then we can go ahead and kind of play around with these numbers for the grids. And also the same thing applies here with the with the storefront. Also, you can go here into edit type, and then here you can explore those numbers even further. So for example, for the layout of this curtain wall, here you can play around with the vertical and the horizontal grid layout, so it can either be maximum spacing or fixed distance. So you can maybe go ahead here and change this to, let's go with fixed distance, no, not fixed number, fixed distance, and let's go with 1200 millimeters. Let's change this to 1200 millimeters as well. Hit apply, and there we go. So we've got a square grid over here. So you can go ahead and change those elements just like that, going here into your type properties, and then you can make some additions here for the vertical grid as well as horizontal grid. Now here we only have some basic options, basically just to determine the type of layout. It can either be a none or fixed distance, fixed number, maximum spacing, minimum spacing. Also here we can add that number, and that's pretty much the only thing we have. We also have this adjust for mullion size option, and that's it. But let's say you're not happy with this layout. Maybe you don't want to have it completely like orthogonal, or maybe you want to make some additional changes to the angle of these mullions. Don't worry, you can change that. You have this button here in the middle of the screen, and it says configure grid layout. So that's basically the same options that we have, or the same name of options that we had over here, but it's actually a bit different. So if I go ahead and select that, you're going to notice that it kind of deselects the whole thing, and here we have some options. So here we have option for the origin of the vertical curtain grid, and here we have the angle of the curtain grid, so the vertical one. Here's the vertical one, and here we have those same options for the horizontal one. So for the vertical one, let's change the angle maybe at 30 degrees, and let's see what that does. So there we go, it does something like this. So you can keep the horizontal grid horizontal, and you can just change the angle of the vertical grids. I can go ahead again and maybe make some changes, maybe change this and add 30 degrees there. Let's see what that does. Yeah, now we have just the same square grid, but it's completely rotated by 30 degrees. Also, if I select this and go ahead over here in the properties panel, you're going to notice that here we have those angle options. So here I can change it to 0 if that's what I so desire. So now I've got the vertical grids, and here the horizontal ones are still at 30 degrees. So I can select it again and find here horizontal grid, and let's change this back to 0 just to get our regular grid. So there we go. That's basically the difference between these two, and that's how you play around with some of these basic settings. Now, let's say you're not really happy with this layout. You maybe want to play around, you want to make something different. So let's see how do we do that within Revit. So what I'm going to be doing now is just, let's delete this one as well. This is the same thing, we just have the grids without the mullions. So let's delete that one, and let's go ahead and keep just the complete glass one. Once we have this empty glass panel, we can start playing around and constructing our own curtain grid system. So for that, we need to go here and find our build panel, and here we have some curtain system options. So here we have this curtain system. Now this is mostly for using for in-place massing, so that's not what we need. What we actually need is this curtain grid option or tool. So I'm going to select that, and let me just cancel out of this. So here we have some options. You have option all segments, or one segment, all except picked. So for now, just for the start, let's go with all segments. Now you're going to notice that when I hover near the edge, it's going to do a line that's perpendicular to that edge. And if I hover near this edge, yeah, so it makes a horizontal one, and here it makes a vertical one. So you can just start playing around and placing some of these grid lines, and you can place them like this as well. You can then later come in, select that grid line, and just using these dimensions here, these temporary dimensions, you can set up all of the distances. So maybe you want this at 2000 millimeters, and maybe this at 2000 as well. And then also you can just select it and just drag it kind of organically and then you can maybe just gonna pinpoint it in a certain place. So you can go just like that. Now this gives you a lot more versatility because you can make some different different patterns, things like that. Just keep in mind that these are glass panels and you probably do have some requirements on the maximum size of each glass panel. So now once you have these in place, what you can do is you can then go again to here curtain grid, and then here we have one segment. So if I hover over this line, you're going to notice that it's just going to place one segment over here between this grid line and this grid line. So this just places one segment here. I can hover over this one, maybe do one segment here. Here, let's go with that, and then we can play around just like this. So you can play around with these tools to create different sorts of patterns. So maybe do something like this for this part over here. So as you can see, we can select it and then move it around. Now you're going to notice that it kind of creates a line that goes all the way through to the other side, but the actual split in the glass panel is only going to appear in this segment. It's not going to appear in the other segments. Maybe you're going to notice just these lines everywhere, but don't worry, those are pretty much the only things that are going to be appearing. The actual split in glass panels, it's going to be over here. Now this basically splits the glass panel in half. So what that means is if I hover over this line, hit my tab key a few times, you're going to notice that I can toggle between these panels. So here we have this whole panel and here we have this whole panel. So you can just select those panels at will once you've created this kind of a pattern. Now once you're happy with the pattern and you say, okay, I don't want to make any additional changes, you can add some mullions to this. So here we only have those separations in glass, but we actually want to have some construction over here. So for that, we need to add some mullions. So for that, you can go here to the mullion tool. So just find curtain wall mullion. And then you can do either one grid line like this, just place a mullion there, or you can do one grid line segment, which is kind of like this. So you're kind of going separately, just doing each segment individually. Or you can go all grid lines. So you just select the whole thing, and there we go. Also, this by adding these mullions doesn't mean that you cannot really make any more changes to the separations or to the layout of this. If you just go back to the modify tool, and let's go back to our curtain grid tool, and then maybe we can add one segment maybe here and another segment here. And of course we can turn those into mullions just by going back to curtain wall mullion tool and just hosting those mullions on those lines. Now when we zoom in over here, you're going to notice that Revit basically just figures out its own way of how these fit together, but maybe just looking at these you don't like the layout. So maybe you don't like the way this looks. You would like this element to go straight through and this element to just go on top. You can just hit this tool or this button over here, toggle mullion join, and as you can see, now it fixes that problem. Now I can go ahead and fix that same problem on each one of these. So here I'm happy with the layout. Here I can play around. Now if you're having trouble selecting some element, you can just use the tab key. So just hit tab a few times, and then hopefully it works. So there we go. So we can fix that, maybe fix this one as well. So just by using that simple button, you can play around with these joints and make them appear in the way that you want them to appear. Maybe fix this one as well. And there we go. So this is fixed. And also you can always come back and move these curtain grid lines. So just by going like this, you can play around with these lines and fix them. So even though it's already created and you've got the mullions in place, you can play around with them. Now you're probably thinking, if you've played around with curtain walls, why when we go over here and let's create a new storefront curtain wall over here. Okay, go into 3D, there we go. So when we create this curtain wall, why can't we play around with this grid line? So if I select this grid line and try to move it around, it doesn't work. Well, that's because here we have a certain layout. So if we go over here, we have the vertical grid and the horizontal grid, and we have some rules to this layout. So here, if we go into edit type, yeah, so as you can see, we've got some rules for the vertical and the horizontal grid. So that doesn't allow us to move these around because they can only be moved systematically for the whole wall. But if you want to make some additional changes and you want to change some of these lines, what you can do is zoom in, hit tab a few times till you can select the grid line, and then here you can just unpin it. Once unpinned, you can select one of these dimension lines, the temporary dimension lines, and here now you can move it. So you can play around with this. It's just a bit harder. You have to think ahead and just unpin it, and then maybe we can change this to 1600. There we go. So you can play around with these, but you do have to unpin them. Also, when playing around with mullions, if you want to make some changes to the mullion, you would have to unpin it as well and then make the change. So if you want to change this, you can do it without unpinning it, but if you want to maybe change and use a different mullion, you can then unpin it and then here change the mullion to maybe some circular mullion or something like that. So for these grid lines, you really do have to make that change and to kind of play around with that layout, and for this one you don't. You can just go ahead straight in and play around. Now, one more option with these grid lines, let's just create maybe a new one. So let's go with wall and let's go like that, straighten it out a bit. There we go, and let's delete this. Okay, so here if I change this, you're going to notice that here on this edge, this one is way smaller than the rest of these. So if I go ahead to select it, so yeah, that is just one curtain wall, but here we have this smaller segment. So the reason for that smaller segment is here when we go into edit type, you're going to notice that we used fixed distance for both of these. And when using fixed distance, you're obviously going to have one side that maybe has just a little bit kind of overhang, because just by using the fixed distance we've got all of these panels, and then here we just need a little bit more wall, and here Revit just placed this kind of smaller segment. Now, depending on your project, it might not make aesthetic sense to have this smaller kind of segment over here on this side. So what you can do to fix that is to play around with the justification. So if you scroll over here, you're going to notice that we have both for the vertical grid and the horizontal grid, we have some justification. So let's go first for the vertical grid and change it from the beginning to end. And now you're going to notice that this looks all right, but if you go to the other side, here we have that segment. So you can play around, you can move that segment around from one side to the other just by changing this justification from beginning to end. Also, you can center it, and then if I hit apply, what it's going to do is it's going to give you kind of a half of that segment over here and half over here. So basically it's starting its count from the beginning, and then it's going off to both sides, and then it gives us that little kind of smaller window on each side. So if we fix this to maybe end, it's going to move it over here. And basically the same thing goes for the vertical grid. If I maybe lower this a bit, yeah, so we have this smaller segment up here, and it's starting from the bottom going all the way through the top. Here the segments are all of the equal size, but just on the top we have that little kind of a smaller segment. So if I select this, and if I just change the justification for the horizontal grid to the end, you're going to notice that now that small segment is moved to the ground level over here. And that's what we of course want to have. So if we're happy with that, we can save it, or maybe we can go and change this to be center justification, and then it gives us a even smaller segment both on top and on bottom. In this case, that might be the worst option, so I'm just going to change it to beginning. Hit apply, okay. So that basically means it starts the justification at the beginning. In this case, that's the bottom line of this wall, and then it goes all the way up, and whatever is left over, it's going to be on the upper portion of this wall. Let's explore the topic of mullions right now. So here we've got some mullions, but we really want to figure out how they work and how we can change them. So this is the correct size at which this model is oriented. So we've got some mullions, and these are the rectangular ones. If I select one of these, it's, as you can see, it's grayed out because it's pinned in place, but it's the 50mm by 150mm rectangular mullion. Now, to change mullions for the whole curtain system, what you can do is just select this curtain wall, go into edit type, and here if we scroll down to the vertical and the horizontal mullions, here we can make some changes. So here we can change the interior type, so those are the ones that are on the interior. So for the vertical mullions, it's going to treat only the ones that are on the inside. The outside ones, this one and the one on the other side, it's not going to be treated by this interior type. And the border type 1 and border type 2 are the ones on the edges. It's just 1 and 2 because we have 2 vertical edges and 2 horizontal edges, so that's why we have 2 of these. So if I were to go here for the interior type and change this to maybe 25mm radius, both for the horizontal and vertical grid, and if I hit apply, you're going to notice that we get this. Okay, something must be messed up. These seem way too large, so maybe it's something messed up with this. So let's try 50mm radius, hit apply. Okay, it looks a lot better. I think it might be something with the family for this one, so I might want to check that out a bit later, but you get the point. Now we've changed this, and as you can see here, we've got those circular mullions on the inside, both here and here. We've got those circular mullions, but on the outside it's still the rectangular ones. Now this might look a bit weird like this, so if I switch to realistic, yeah, it's going to present it in a lot better way. So here we've got those glass panels, and here we've got those mullions. Now you might notice that the circular mullions don't look as good as the rectangular ones, especially the joint between the glass panel and the mullion. So I prefer using only rectangular ones unless I absolutely have to use these ones. So let's go maybe with the 30mm one, hit apply. Yeah, so this is a thinner version of a mullion that's only on the inside of the glass, and here we have that. Now you might notice that here the mullions are kind of cutting this mullion in half, and it just doesn't look natural at all. So you can just hit tab once and then change this. Now unfortunately I don't really know a way that you can do this for all of them at once, so you would have to go manually and just go ahead and select all of these mullions and then change them. But as you can see, it looks already a lot better than like this, having this ugly line splitting the top horizontal mullion. So that's how you change those mullion types. Now a bit later we're going to be creating our own mullion and loading it in. Let me just talk briefly about openings in Revit, or about these glass panels. So for the glass panels, what you can do is you can play around and you can select the glass panel. So just hitting tab a few times, it's going to allow you to select it. Maybe turn the thin lines off. There we go. So now you can select the panel. As you can see, it's pinned in place. So here the system panel glazed, it's turned off. But if we unpin it, we can see what are the options that we have. So we've got some options over here, and also we've got these options as well. Now to pin it back in place, if you want to change it for the whole system, you can select the whole system or the whole wall, go into edit type, and here we have the curtain panel, and it says curtain panel, system panel glazed. Now you can turn it completely off just by going with an empty system panel. Select that, hit apply, and there we go, it's completely empty. This one, because it was pinned out of place. Okay, now when we pin it back, it goes to an empty system panel, and yeah, we don't have any glass. If I turn on shadows, yeah, so it's just an empty wall with just a construction. Now you can select the whole thing, go into edit type, and here we have a few more options. So we've also got this system panel glazed, and also we have this solid. So if you go to solid, hit apply, it's just going to give you a solid panels. So there we go, it looks like that. It's just a wall of solid panels. But there's one more trick that we have over here, and for that I'm going to show you a different way of creating a curtain wall, and then I'm going to show you how to use that extra option for a curtain panel. So let me delete this complete wall, and let me go back into level 1, and I'm just going to go here with a wall, and for the wall I'm going to choose something like maybe brick on metal stud, and just do a simple wall. I'm going to select it, and for the constraints I'm going to go from the base constraint of level 1 up to level 2. So that's all I want to have. Now let's say this is just maybe some sort of a wall for, I don't know, some shop or something like that. So it's a brick wall, and here we want to have an opening so people can see inside of the shop, and for that we need to create some sort of a storefront or a curtain wall. So for that I'm just going to go back into level 1, go here with wall, go into curtain wall, let's go with the storefront one, and here for the base constraint I'm going to go with level 1, for the top constraint of course level 2, but for the base offset I'm going to go with 600 millimeters, and for the top offset I'm going to go with minus 600 millimeters. And now if I go here to the middle of this and just do that glass wall and hit modify, go back to the outside, you're going to notice that we have that glass wall placed over here. Now it's this ugly one because we still haven't changed back to glass, so I'm just going to select it, go into edit type, and change here the curtain panel to the let's go with the glazed one. Hit apply, there we go. So we've got our storefront window, so it looks like that. Now you can select it and you can play around, maybe change it like this, you can go all the way to the bottom, but the cool part is Revit allows you to actually cut through your existing wall by creating a curtain wall. And here maybe we can change the base constraint to 0, so now it's aligned with the bottom of this floor. Now what you can do is always you can delete some of these mullions, so I'm just going to use the tab key and unpin this one, delete, unpin this, hit delete, and let's do the same thing for this one, delete, and for this one, delete. Now what you can do with these glass panels, I'm just going to select this one, and then you can right click, go select panels, and let's go with a horizontal grid. So I've selected all of these, and I'm just going to unpin all of these just like that. Okay, here we have just this one, the mullion, I didn't delete it, there we go. So let's go, and this one as well, I think, yeah, let's delete it. Okay, so select this one, as I said, right click, select panels, horizontal grid, so I can select all of these panels, and now I can choose the same wall as this wall over here. So if I go to scroll up, go with a brick on metal stud, and there we go. So we've got our wall, and it's actually placed along this edge. So there we go, that's what we have. So you can play around and you can actually place walls instead of these curtain panels, and if we go ahead and change this a bit, that wall is going to change with it as well. So it's going to completely change with the curtain panel, and if we make some additions to this system's dimensions, it's going to follow that as well. Now I'm happy with this one. Let's do another one over here. So back to level 1, let's go with a wall. I'm just going to cancel out of this for now. So just go like this. There we go. So we've got this wall. I'm going to select it, and immediately I'm just going to make sure that the base offset is set to 0. So let's go into 3D. Let's select it, and let's make some changes for the dimensions. So for the spacing, let's go with, I don't know, 2000 for the, or let's go with 1000 for the vertical grid and 2000 for the horizontal one. Hit apply. There we go. And this one changed as well, you may notice, because it's still, some of these are still pinned in place. So if I unpin this, Yeah, I can make some changes. But anyway, we can delete this one, we don't really need it. So here I've got a curtain system like this, and let's say I want to add a door over here. If I were just to go to the level floor plan, go with a door, as you can see, I can place a door on this wall, but I cannot do it here on the curtain wall. Well, I can, but just not as efficiently as it were. So if I would place it, you're going to notice that we have this warning, so we need to delete this element, and now this is going to look super weird like that. So this doesn't really work. And let's delete that element. Let's actually go back before we've done anything. So let's say we want to have just a glass door over here. So how do you do that? So what you need to do is first we need to delete this bottom mullion. If you want to go through the door, you don't want to step over this mullion. So let's select it. So I'm just going to hit the tab key once, select it, unpin it, and just hit delete. Now we have enough space here for a door. So what you can do is I can select this panel, unpin it, and then let's search for a door. So here is you're going to notice that we don't really have any doors, so we need to load those in. So what I'm going to do is go to the insert tab, find load family, let's go with doors, there we go, and here if I just select the first one and then scroll down using my arrow keys, you're going to notice that it's going to just toggle through doors. And when we get to the ones called door, curtain, wall, we've got the single one, the double one, and the double one without the frame. So let's just go with the single one for now. Hit open. Now hit tab a few times until you select the panel, open up the drop menu, and there we go. It's over here, we have that option. So I'm just going to select it, and you probably don't see anything. That's because, or any changes, that's because we really need to go to the fine level of detail so we can see that kind of doorknob or door handle that we have over here. But if we go into level 1, you're going to notice that here we have that door. Now the dimensions of this door, which of course can be flipped around as any door in Revit, you can flip it to the other side, flip it here, so it just works. It's just got basic functionality as any other door in Revit. But if you want to change or play around with its dimensions, you really need to select one of these curtain grid lines, unpin them, and then play around. So if you want to make it smaller, you have to do this, or if you want to make it bigger, you have to do that. And same thing goes for the height of the door. So you need to select this grid line, and then maybe make it taller just by using the arrow keys, or make it smaller if that's what you want. Now let's do the double door. So for the double door we need a bigger opening, so let's go into level 1, unpin this thing, and then maybe stretch it to the other side, stretch it here a bit. Yeah, I guess this will work for the double door, maybe even more, like that. So now this looks completely silly, but let's load a family for this double storefront. Hit open, select this door, open up the drop menu, and let's go with a door, curtain, wall, and there we go. Now if we go into 3D, it looks like that. It looks a lot better. Now we can fix a few things. Maybe here this connection, I don't like it, so let's fix this. Let's now create our own curtain wall, and all of the elements are going to be custom built. So I'm going to be designing both the mullions as well as all of the panels. So for that, I'm going to go here to a family, and I'm going to start a new family, and let me just scroll down, find the profile families, and let's go with a mullion, because mullions are usually modeled as a profile. So I'm just going to go with mullion, hit open, and there we go. Now here you've got some text that's kind of supposed to help you out. So this is the center front back reference line. This is where the actual glass panels are going to be hosted. Then we have both the interior and the exterior side, and this is the center of the mullion. So I'm just going to zoom in, and let's create maybe a different interesting mullion. So first I'm going to leave some room for the glass that's going to be in the middle. So for that I'm just going to go here to line, go with pick lines. Let's give it an offset of 8 millimeters on each side, just like that. Then for the mullion, let's go with same 8 millimeters from side to side. And then for the actual thickness of the mullion, let's go with, I don't know, something like let's go with 20 millimeters. Just like that. Okay, so we have this, and for the outside I want to have some sort of a curved line, so I'm just going to go here to lines, go with an arc, and let's create not a full arc, but something like this. Maybe bring it down a bit. There we go. Now I'm just going to use the trim and extend lines to trim and extend this to this and this to this. After we have this, let's do the interior side, and the interior side is just going to be a simple line, but I'm just going to kind of chamfer it just a little bit on each side. So first, for the offset from the center, let's go with 80 millimeters, and then let's go just in thin lines to make it a bit easier on the eyes, and let's go with a line like this, and here as well. Okay, so we have that. Now we need to fix this portion out, so I'm just going to go with split line tool, split it here, and then let's go with trim and extend. TR is the shortcut, and let's trim this in place. Next thing we need to do is fix the rest of this. So again, SL for split element, split here, split there, trim and extend, and let's trim it just like this. And there we go. We just need to fix this up again. So trim and extend, and fix this, fix that, and there we go. So this is our mullion. Maybe make it like that. Yeah, looks better. Okay, so usually these mullions have some sort of a thickness, so this is usually a hollow profile, maybe some elements in the middle. But if I go ahead over here and add some elements, so let's go with line, offset tool, or maybe just a regular line with an offset of like, I don't know, like 3 millimeters. If I were to do something like that, maybe just like this, and trim and extend this, so let's say this is our mullion, and if I go to load into project, okay, first let's start a project, so new project, architectural template. There we go. So we have a project. Let's try to load this into the project. But if we were to load this, this actually wouldn't work for our mullion, for our curtain wall. And the reason for that is because we have this inner line. So it has to be one closed loop to work in a project just as a mullion. So how do you fix this profile? Well, you need to delete this inner element, and now you're probably thinking, okay, this is fine, but it doesn't really bring enough detail into the project. And for bringing in that detail, I'm going to be talking about that just a bit later on, but for now let's just load this mullion. So it's loaded in, let's override it. Okay, so the mullion is loaded in, and now we just need to create the glass panels. And the only thing we know about glass panels is this distance. It's 16 millimeters. So the glass can be up to 16 millimeters thick. So let me go here to File, New, and let's create a new panel. So let's go with the new family. Let's see. So here we have first curtain, a metric curtain wall panel. Go with that one, hit open, and here we go. So here we've got that panel, and if we go to the interior side, there we go. So this is just the panel. Exterior side, there we go, and in floor plan it looks like this. So what I'm going to be doing is just create a simple panel. This is the center line of the of that curtain panel. So just go with an extrusion, and I'm just going to go maybe like this, so it should be at 8 millimeters. If you can't pinpoint it, don't worry, just do the rectangle. So I'm just going to do one rectangle like this to the other side. Let's see. Okay, here's the other side. So do just one rectangle like that. Then you can select it, go here, let's do it 8 millimeters. And this should be at, I don't know, something like 4 millimeters, or maybe even 3. So it's going to be a double glass panel, so 2 panes of glass. So let's just select it, go MM for mirror, pick this axis in the middle, and there we go. So we've got our panel. Now we just need to lock it in place. So lock it in place here. lock it in place here. This will allow it to change its dimensions with the dimensions of the curtain panel. So lock it in place here, lock it in place here. When we hit finish, let's go to the interior or exterior side and just lock it in place here and just kind of bring it out, bring it in, and lock it in place. While this is selected, let's change the material. So for the material, I'm going to go here and change this to something like glass. So let's go with glass, or you can maybe use some different type of glass. So maybe we can open up this menu. Let's see. Let's go with the regular glass for this one. I'm just going to go OK, go into 3D, and there's our panel from actually two glass panels. And I can load this into the project as well. Now remember, this is family 2 and this one is family 1, so just remember that naming convention. So let's go here, load this into the project, project 3, load it in there, hit OK, and there we go. Now we can start assembling our new panel or our new glass wall, but before we can load elements in, we need to make sure that they will work. And for that, we need to create new families. So just scroll down over here into your project browser. Here you have your families. Open that drop menu up. Here we've got curtain panels. Open that up. And here we have that family too. So you just need to make sure that this family is over there. Also, another thing, let's go with the mullions. So let's see. Curtain wall mullions. Open this up, and here we don't have that option. So let's open up maybe the rectangular ones. Select one of these. I'm just going to select the 50 by 65 millimeter. Right click, go duplicate. Let's call this new mullion. Hit enter, right click on that, or you can just double click on that, and you will get the type properties for that new family. And here is the actual place where you load in your profile. So load in family 1 profile. And for the material, I'm just going to leave it at aluminum. Okay, so now we can go to wall, go to storefront perhaps, and then go into edit type, and let's duplicate this one. Let's call this one new curtain wall. Hit enter, and now for the curtain panel, let's go with family 2, and for all of our mullions, let's leave the exterior side at this, and let's change the interior ones to our new mullion. So here, interior, new mullion, there we go. Hit OK, and now we can create our new curtain system. And if we zoom in, you're going to notice that we have these new mullions that are holding our new panels in place. And it's actually going inside of the mullion as it should. And if we go into 3D, zoom in a bit, there we go. So we've got that kind of curvature on the outside, and here we've got our 2 panes of glass. So we've got our advanced mullion here in Revit. Now let's go back into level 1. So this looks nice already. Just one change that I would do, but that I would do in the end, is just to fix this up. So you would select the mullion and again fix that up to make it look nice. Let's do it just for the floor plan so it doesn't bother us. So just go like that, fix that. And just for the last 2 of these, it's a bit tricky tabbing through all of these elements, but there we go. And now if we go into floor plan, yeah, it looks a lot better. And there we go. So we've got this mullion, but let's add that detailing that we talked about. So we want to have some detailing inside of this. So for that, let's go back to the mullion. Let's see where it is. Okay, here's the mullion. And let's go to File, New Family. And let's call this, let's see what we have for options. Do we have a detail family? Okay, detail item. Hit open, and there we go. Now notice over here in this family, where is the family? It's a bit tricky working with a lot of projects, so it might make sense to close some of these off. Okay, here it is. So this is the existing one, and where's the new one? Here it is. So I'm just going to bring them closer together. So here's the existing mullion, and I'm just going to select it, go Control-C, go to the new detail item, and here, instead of going Control-V, I'm going to go to Modify, Paste, Aligned to the current view. Select there, and there we go. So we've got this mullion in place, and we're creating it as a detail item, and this is the regular one. So we're going to actually go ahead over here and go and create a detail item. So I'm going to load in this detail component to my mullion. So let me show you how that works. I'm just going to go here to create, use some lines for this detail component, maybe an offset of, I don't know, 3 millimeters. There we go. Can we select the whole thing? Yes, we can. There we go. Here now we need to fix this, so just use trim and extend just to fix it up a bit. Yeah, just like that. Okay, here we need an extra line, so just go to create. Like that. And of course you would probably add something in the middle. Maybe this would go through here. This here as well. So you can just play around with the detailing for this. So let's bring this in. Fix it off so it looks nice. Go with split element and split these. That's just the SL tool. There we go, so we've got that. Maybe here we would have one element in the middle, so you can just use a line like this and mirror it to the other side. There we go. And then SL again to split these elements and trim them in place. So let's say you're happy with this and you want to load it into the project. So you just go here, load into project, load into that family 1, hit OK, and here just place it over this. Now usually I place it just a bit to the side. Go with the align tool, AL is the shortcut, and then align it and lock it in place. Let's see, where's the middle? There we go. Lock it in place. So we've got that detail element, and now if we load this back into our project tree, override the existing, and as you can see now we have that detail. Now if we look at it over here, we have that detail, but also if we create maybe a section, we will see that detail as well. So let's create a new section, open that up, and here we have that detail. So that's how this works. Also, you can make some additional changes. Maybe one trick that I would like to use for something like this. Let's just find that family. Okay, so here's the family. I would select the actual detail family and maybe go here to visibility settings and make sure that it only appears in perhaps fine. So uncheck this, hit OK, load it back into the project tree, hit OK, override, and there we go. Now it's invisible, the detailing, but if we switch this to fine, now we can see it, but if it's medium or coarse, we can't see it. So you can only bring this detailing up when you need all of those precious details, and when you're just doing regular mullions and you don't want to over constrain the model, you can just use it like this, and there we go. That's how it looks, and the glass is fitting in perfectly. So that's how we create our own custom mullions as well as custom system panels. For the end, just to keep it interesting, I'm going to be showing you how to use this cool spider clamp for your facade. So this is used for holding your glass panels in place, and I'm going to be showing you how to use this. Now this is the family that I downloaded from the internet, and usually when you download a family like this, first you need to check out how this actually works. So here, if I go to reference level, so this is how it looks in reference level, and if I go to front elevation, you're going to notice that here we have some sort of a plane. This is the reference level. So this is basically how it looks. And if we go over here in the in our family category and parameters, you're going to notice that it is work plane based. So I'm just going to hit OK, and we're going to place it on a work plane. So let's just exit out of this, exit out of that, and let's start a new project. So let's go to New, Project, Architectural Template, hit OK. And now let's create a new curtain wall. So just go here to Wall, and for this, let's just go with exterior glazing. And just do one wall over here. Select it. Okay, so if we go into south elevation, you're going to notice that here we have some separations. Maybe let's add a few more. So let's go into edit type. Yeah, let's change the spacing for the vertical grid. Let's leave it as is. And here for the horizontal grid, let's do it at, I don't know, something like 2 meters. So 2000 millimeters, hit apply. Okay, there we go. So now to fit our family in, I'm going to go back into level 1 and see, do I have some reference planes over here? Well, we can create a reference plane. So just go here to reference plane and just do it over here. So just place it like that, and let's call this spider host. Hit enter, there we go. So now let's go back into our south elevation and let's load our family in. So go load into project, do south elevation, component. This is going to give you access to this, and you can either place it on face, or in this case we're going to use a work plane just to make sure that we're selecting the correct face. And as you can see, now you can place it. Now once placed, I usually like to double check to see where is it placing it. Maybe go into level 1 or maybe the site plan. Yeah, so as you can see, it kind of places it like that. So we need to make some changes to our work plane. So I'm just going to select it and move it, and I'm just going to go MV for move, go to this line, and then move it over here. There we go. So now here's our work plane, and let's go back into south elevation. We can select this, and now we can copy it around, and also we can lock it in place. So you can go to align and just align it with this line and align it with this grid line, and this is just going to make sure that if you change this thing, so if you maybe change it, if you go ahead and make some changes where you want to maybe unpin this and move it around, the spider clamp will move with it. So let's go back, let's select it. Let me just copy it here maybe. Let's go to component, make sure it's place on work plane, and that we have our spider host selected, and then we can play around. Of course, you would like to double check everything in 3D just to make sure that it's placing everything correctly. It is, so let's go back to south elevation and continue doing this. So work plane, spider host, there we go. So you can just place these along all of these edges, and of course, as I said, make sure to lock everything in place. Whenever you make some changes, you would like to be able to move these spider clamps without any interruption. So let's lock this in place, or just let's bring it back in, and you would lock it in place. I'm just not going to do it now, just in the interest of time. So let's go back into level 1. This is what this looks like, and now we need to add some construction elements. So for the construction elements for this, what you need to do is you need to load in some construction elements. Usually those would be some steel columns, something like that. So go here to insert, go to load family. Let's go back a few folders here, and you want to be at the US metric or US imperial, depending on what you want to use. And I'm going to go with structural columns. Here we have some steel ones, and let's play around. Now you can use these I-beams. I prefer using these square hollow section columns. Open that up, and let's choose some smaller size, something square if we have, perhaps. Okay, these are too large, so let's see what we have. Maybe something like this could work. Hit open, go to structure, go to column, and there we go. We can place this column. So you can just go here to square column, maybe make it fine so you can see it better. Yeah, there we go. So what I'm going to do is just place it over here. Now you won't be able to see it when you place it. I'm just going to hit undo. The reason for that is first we need to set this from depth to height, and let's set it to unconnected 8000 millimeters, as that's the height of the of our curtain system. Now I'm going to place it like this off to the side. Then I'm going to use the align tool to align it here vertically, and if you cannot align it horizontally to this exterior edge, don't worry, just select it, go with move, and then just move it here in place. Now once we have this, we can of course go copy, and we can select maybe this center line and then copy it. Make sure you select multiple, and let's copy one here, one there, one here, there, and there we go. So now if we go into 3D, there we go. So we've got our steel construction that's holding our spider clamps in place, and here we have only glass. If we go to realistic, it would look like that. And as you can see, it's holding it in place, and it actually looks really good. So there we go. We've got our cool spider facade, spider glass curtain wall in Revit. Okay, so that concludes this course where I show you everything you need to know about curtain walls in Revit and exploring all of the families that are going into this system family. So that's pretty much it for this course. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another course in a week. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.